Zangpo, a warm welcome to Bhutan This Week. My name is Samton Dolkar. Our top stories this week. His Majesty the King appoints the ambassador designated to Australia and Zongda of Poro and Tashiangse. Audit report points out short-term training abroad have a huge impact on public resources. And the 7-day mandatory quarantine increased to 14 days for those traveling from red zone areas. Now the news in detail. His Majesty the King granted to appoint the ambassador designated to Australia and Zongda of Poro and Tashiangse. Sonam Topke from Tashikang is the first ever Bhutanese ambassador to Australia. The new embassy will be located in Canberra. He was working as the director of the Department of Bilateral Affairs in the Foreign Ministry. The new Paro Zongda is Karmatille. Before his appointment, he was the director of the Department of Prevention and Education in the Anti-Corruption Commission. He is from Sarpang. And Baburam Sherpa from Dagana, a specialist with the Department of Adult and Higher Education under the Education Ministry, is the new Tashiangse Zongda. In accordance with the Constitution of Bhutan, His Majesty the King appoints ambassadors and Zongdas on the recommendation of the Prime Minister, who obtained nominations from the Royal Civil Service Commission. Samton Dolkar, BBS News. Bhutan has secured more than 500,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines from the European countries like Denmark, Bulgaria, and Croatia, among others. Additionally, the country has also secured 200,000 doses of Pfizer vaccine from the United States. The vaccines are expected to reach Bhutan within a week. The Prime Minister announced that the second jab is likely to begin by the 19th of this month.
The registration for the second jab began today. The Prime Minister said those who have already registered for the first dose need not have to register this time. And children who are 11 years and above and those who did not register for the first dose are asked to register this time.
Najun alusulu kap di chama subachin lo chenga manami lo job ge manami ge alusu kap chama subachin the lo job ge le ya phimi di sudi te dugya khamna ge mi jachele jache chabda bachin te cha jachele gepchu thambalani imela alusu chama subachin cha jachele gepchu di mappalera minani me se chunibi tani boletun 땡아치다 개초수 소일 행간나기수 류무디 청모리기 차로디수 류무 딴디 코리기 차로디수 기베 차로 베리기베 같이 알루술루 잡도비기 갑기 내갑에 뛴디기베 다 입진 난게 세미기 데룹디 뛴디기베 이톨루 지니 구주다이 세슈니비.
The Prime Minister added that Bhutan still has 60,000 vaccine doses left from the first vaccination drive.
계약 라루 가미 들어 계약 재미수기 도람 베디 쟁할레 도람 베디미기 계약 디순을 땡아치링 윤 공례라 나치리 명화들이 무체 yapsesu kaaragi ku khordisu chika thunam lejim beyumigi ge khaplesha dula ta ansugibe te toram nani gutsu ta ithogi tholenga china hu teri bari huge naung semigi the ingena beojin confirmation selapme ta ansuenga china hu te phale namru disue te disu sharangi ra disue hingsangsa zosani digi the AstraZeneca ge khapgiranga china ibji bum cheda tu de chigi chankhala asila.
The Prime Minister urged everyone to take the jab because the country needs coverage of at least 80% of the total population to secure herd immunity. Bhutan began the nationwide COVID-19 first jab on 27th March. The country will complete the 16th weeks of vaccination gap by mid of this month. Kelzang Chodan for BBS News.
In the last 6 months, the Health Ministry detected 32 new HIV cases. All of them were infected through unprotected sex. With this, the total number of HIV cases detected in the country since the first one in 1993 stands at 773.
As per the UN/AIDS estimate, Bhutan has around 1,300 positive cases. This means the country still needs to find 527 missing cases to breach the current detection gap of 40.5%. According to the Health Ministry, despite its efforts, HIV-related stigma and discrimination are the major barriers to controlling the disease. A press release from the ministry states the stigma and discrimination can largely discourage key and vulnerable populations like men having sex with men, sex workers, and those injecting drugs to show up for testing. It further states stigma and discrimination is the number one cause for HIV transmission to larger population. As per the ministry, scientifically well-proven effective HIV medicine that can reduce HIV in the body and improve their immune system to stay healthy and live a long life like any other uninfected individual is available. However, timely testing is encouraged as it is the only means to initiate early treatment. An official from the Health Ministry said the HIV testing is available in all the healthcare facilities and across the country. The health information and service centers in 6 major urban areas and private diagnostic centers. Besides, the ministry is gearing up for the community-based testing using the HIV self-testing kit, where trained laymen from the identified communities will conduct the testing within their network. The Health Minister Dechen Wangmo says, knowing one's HIV status is the single most important responsibility that people can take to help the country fight against the epidemic. Meanwhile, as per the Health Ministry's records, the majority of the reported cases in Bhutan is between the age group of 25 and 49 years. This means HIV has primarily affected the country's most economically productive age group. Gyalzang Choden for BBS News.
An official from the Ministry of Economic Affairs travelled abroad 14 times for training in 1 year. This is as per the performance audit report on ex-country travels in the 2018 to 2019 financial year. The report says travelling abroad for short-term training has incurred a huge impact on public resources. The civil servants preferred going abroad even for courses that were offered by the institutes in the country.
The review was carried out in 10 ministries, Gross National Happiness Commission and National Environment Commission. Nearly 3,000 officials attended short-term trainings in 81 countries, and more than 70 officials from these agencies travelled as many as 5 to 14 times during the period. The report says there is no reason why local institutions are not preferred when there are huge differences in overall cost. The short-term trainings cost some 350 million yuan, of which nearly 83 million yuan was funded by the government. The cost includes DSA, airfare and course fees, among others. Moreover, while traveling to the US, Europe and Canada, the agencies do not undertake the most direct and economical route. The report shows that the civil servants traveled via Bangkok, although the route via Delhi is shorter. As per the report, of the 137 trips to the US, Europe and Canada, more than half of the trips were made via Bangkok. The report highlighted that agencies have not explored online learning resources for wider reach and cost effectiveness. Sringzam, BBS News.
Despite the worsening situation in India, a group of people are preparing to travel there to take the English language proficiency test. An English language proficiency certificate is required for enrollment in most international universities, such as those in Australia. There are 2 test centers in the country, but they are currently closed due to the COVID pandemic.
So far, 14 people have registered with an education consultancy firm to travel to India to take the test there. They are hopeful of leaving for Kolkata on the 16th of this month. Nikita is one of the applicants. She says her studies have already been delayed by a year and does not want to wait any longer. She says she is not afraid since all the necessary protocols are being provided to make sure they return home safely.
I have already applied for my university, so it's one of the main criteria for me to give my IELTS. And since I cannot get my visa without IELTS, so I won't be able to achieve my dreams of going to Canada.
The education consultancy firm facilitating the candidates say they are making these arrangements because of the high demand to sit for the exams. Besides arranging for the exams, travel and accommodation, they are also ensuring the safety protocols are met.
The protocols have all been put in place by the National Task Force already. So in order for any individual to travel from Bhutan to another country, there is a specific formality that must be completed that will enable you to then leave. At the end of the day, we're all adults, we're all educated. And whether you decide to wear a mask or not, to sanitize, to wash your hands, to touch certain objects, it's up to the individual to take their own precautions, to take that genku and be as diligent as possible when they're traveling.
The candidates will bear all the COVID testing and quarantine expenses. The total cost along with the expenses for the test, travel and accommodation is expected to be around 70,000 yutam per person. They have also signed an undertaking letter taking responsibility of all risk. Meanwhile, the government says people are discouraged from unnecessary travel abroad. However, it does not stop those wanting to do so. The candidates will be given the second COVID jabs before they leave. Kinzang Hadin, PBS News.
As the monsoon season peaks, so do the worries of Thangul residents in Ondifotang. Fed by rainwater, the Punatangchu has been flooding their area, putting at risk both lives and properties. They say an embankment would reduce the risks even if it does not resolve the problem for good.
This was the situation last summer. The Punatangchu broke its bank, flooding the nearby areas. An archery range was submerged and the water reached the nearby settlements. But this was not an isolated case. According to the residents, they experienced similar situations in the past. They said without an embankment, they have been living in constant fear.
대다 심지 조외 추가디 해노 아니 주자심날래 델레타웨간에 델렌록 담아 감절록 아철롱 대소집 아니면 롱베 아니르디빌라
남자기 디체루디 nga치기 다 차기디 bombe라 다 치루게 때 도바가데 종가세 디 nga치루 다 도파 bombe라 리메세 수니베일라
니동 실랭아기나 말로 번주지라 번주 듬도도로 때 투루미실레 nga치기 요어 카들 대탑가네면노 세수니베일라.
The Athang Thetso MP also raised the issue during the question hour session of the National Assembly recently.
남자 튠더라 더 말에 장슈 제더라 대야신 나라바주 미게 제술에 되니까 계속해서 사고 집에 되블텐데베 대다 도로에 대동다지 드르난 내유라 라미게 조제레지메 튠디 여더라 베서주로 더 말에 춥자잡 embankments.
According to the Works and Human Settlement Minister, the construction of a river embankment was not included in the ongoing Baju-Kurutang Highway widening works since the Punatangchu 1 hydroelectric project submitted a proposal to the government to construct the structure. The project authority agreed to construct the river embankment considering the backflow of the river from its dam. However, now since there is a plan to construct a barrage instead of a dam, the arrangement between the government and the authority has been altered. The minister said a team of experts will visit the area soon and come up with a feasible solution.
흉람디 embankment 잡디기베 야 투고베 슈닐라 흉람 투디기베 올레파 추전이기 람디 마자바친 아니 잡칼로 초즈메 키니 잉아두 슈닐라 추조세기 람디 잡아친 추디 마멤바 마장슈레 야즈니기 잉가 요발레텐디베 아니가 탑람 찌디 같이 뜬고베세 다 다리 같이 남 군르조디기베 탑람 뜬 미수님의 아직 남 자루 같이 계속 가라 좀디기베 다 파산내나로 추남 베디드비기 뒤세루 땡아지 조디기베 땡아지기 탑람 뜬이베 땡아지 다리 세삼 대비 중디 신내라.
Currently, the police are monitoring the water level of the river in the area. They also sensitize and caution the nearby residents on the possible risks of flooding. And this is bound to continue until a permanent solution is found for the seasonal yet perennial problem. For Changa Doji in Ondifodrong, Chonitama for BBS News.
The voters in Chekortang constituency in Bumtang are waiting for their MP Dawa to deliver the much-hyped farm road Blacktopping. The MP had promised this during the by-election in November last year. The pledge was one of the major commitments of Druk Namrup Thokpa for the constituency that potentially helped secure the seat for their candidate.
Dawa, the new Chekortang MP, was elected more than 7 months ago. The Prime Minister, as the President of Druk Namrup Thokpa, was also actively involved in the election campaign. They said blacktopping of about 40 kilometers of farm roads in Tang, Chekorte and Dur would begin immediately after the election, but the work is yet to begin.
Kelang seda debera sunde kita talam dia hoki kelang sundu sumbera de dung sen no yire she yusi juela
te tatu di lojang chigani magola ta shani nishidi gi be lockdown so be bedalo te chala zemo son se tanu no mela tarna ba be ajenda che lockdown dia che ya cha be an be gale ta tarna ba ta chalo sakar be jedo ga se gi
ngaji durgi sum ji be ajil danga che nam jardin tapadalo te kangel bombe nam ginje theodale do denbe kri shungudis de lamsemi de kangel bombe se ta niji jobajira nangmaji kri chilme se
jabe jin tamda ni susibe te keware babere namsemi kangel me bala gari mithe ani budanga chi mina ki milo ani tamaji ni kati chese shunila
te dangja shaptolen botu se jun benale nam disute te jogara kosuni sanbe te ngachi ya rewa debe yulan no
MP Dawa said there is no room for excuses to leave the pledges unfulfilled.
Duse anamchikadi nga terbri shumishebe ire the lugyang chachibe shuwachin duchigi lonalodi inchi minchani lamsum chara china tandi future chuusishunila.
But people are doubtful whether or not a farm road is eligible for blacktopping.
Sonam Jingnam de Paraja, Chiok Nalafa Sonam Jingnam Sebadeta. 14 5-year plan Nalfa Gajbini de Ladi. Now the work has to be on the improvement of existing infrastructures. Blacktopp Chaguru Chap, GSP Chaguru Chap, Desco Chaguru Chap, and Evijon. Tani Blacktop Chamicho Semiti, Hema, Yosin Bidova, this is Diganluro, this is that Timbigi. That Nalafati, Blacktop is all allowed and doing also. We are also doing. We have already Blacktop 3 farm roads.
MP Dawa said the blacktopping budget has already been approved and the works will begin immediately after the monsoon. For Kipchu in Bumthang, Kyalzang Chodin for BBS News.
The National COVID-19 Task Force revised the 7-day mandatory quarantine for high-risk to low-risk travelers. As per the new guidelines, the quarantine period will depend on the status of the place from where a person is traveling. As of now, based on the severity of the outbreak, the places in the high-risk zone are classified as green, yellow and red.
With the revised quarantine period, people traveling from a red zone will undergo facility quarantine for 14 days. Similarly, for a yellow zone, the number of days has been increased to 10. However, for a green zone, the mandatory quarantine period remains the same, 7 days.
Green is a place in a high-risk area like Sambuzongkar, which has seen a recent outbreak but is now clear of the infection. And then, for instance, we will have like Gomtu or Nganglam that had recent outbreak, but then the outbreak has been slightly controlled. So we put those areas as yellow. And then places like Samti, Finseling, that has continuous cases every day. So those are high-risk area and red.
He said the classification or disease phase of a place will change depending on its outbreak situation. The Regional COVID-19 Task Force requested the National COVID-19 Task Force to review the mandatory quarantine to minimize the risk of disease transmission.
Because of the change in the disease epidemiology, the increasing risk caused by the new variants, the disease pattern, and the virus dynamics, it has been felt that we should increase the quarantine duration.
Earlier, people traveling from high-risk areas to low-risk areas were quarantined for 7 days. And recently, 2 individuals traveling from Phuntsholing to Thimphu tested positive for COVID-19 while inside the quarantine facility. They tested negative on the RT-PCR test before they were escorted to Thimphu. With additional information from Sonam Penjo, Kyalzang Choden for BBS News.
With border gates closed amid the pandemic, access to single-use plastics, often referred to as disposable plastics, has become difficult for the shopkeepers at Shechamthang in Sarpang. Taking this as an opportunity, the Sarpang Thumde representatives during the recent consultative meeting decided to reduce the use of plastics in the new town.
Before entering the shop, the customers are greeted with a signage on the plastic ban rule. Welcoming the initiative, shopkeepers said, this will decrease the pressure to provide customers with plastic bags each time they shop.
When customers visit our shop, we inform them that we will stop providing them with plastic bags. They once we have our old stocks, and once we run out of it, they will be required to bring their carry bags.
We tell them we don't have plastic bags, but when told so, they ask for carry bags which are not affordable. If they buy more items, then we make use of carton boxes to pack the items.
They bring the bags now. We informed them that we will not give plastic bags and they agreed to bring them next time.
Turning plastic inaccessibility to a good advantage, the District Environment Office is trying to inculcate the practice of using eco-friendly carry bags.
Thumde representatives were saying that they are complaining of not getting single-use plastic. The discussion came up like, what if we can have a notification or the signage saying that we don't have the single-use plastic in shops. They can bring their own carry bags. This is going to minimize the single-use plastic.
The use of plastic was first banned in the country in 1999. The ban was reinforced nationwide again in 2019. While the plastic ban is yet to find a foothold in the country, it remains to be seen if Shechamthang's new yet old initiative of reducing plastic use go a long way. For Karmawangdi in Sarpang, Sunampem for BBS News.
There was a time when songs would echo across the fields of Jibjo, Usakhachiuk and Punakha during the paddy transplantation season. A farmer would sing to his oxen while ploughing the fields, bringing alive the otherwise a tedious and monotonous task. These days, it has become a rare sight. The practice, commonly known as Lanke, is slowly fading. The songs are becoming more distant.
Almost knee-deep in the dirt, Namgitsering sings the song as he controls and directs his oxen through the field. The 37-year-old is praising the animals for their hard work, a tradition he inherited from his forefathers. A few terraces below, the roaring sound of a power tiller is overpowering. Here, there is no one singing. Everyone's rushing to finish the day's work as soon as possible. It is a worrying sight for Namge.
Nowadays, everyone in the village is using a power tiller to plow fields. They don't use oxen. I am worried this will cost us the traditional practices of plowing fields.
Following the farm mechanization efforts in the country, the farmers say power tillers have replaced bulls for plowing the fields. The alternative is convenient and less laborious, but it has come at a price. Most of them now reminisce about the days when Lanke was a thriving culture in the Chiwok.
As modern technologies emerge, the practice of
plowing fields using oxen is declining, and so we do not hear people singing Lanke.
Earlier, many people sang Lanke perfectly, and a few would at least use oxen to plow fields. The community used to be filled with Lanke songs. I wonder if the next generation would know what Lanke means. They might misunderstand it for a dance or just another song.
Today, there are only 2 households in Jibjo, Usaka who depend entirely on bulls for farm works. According to research, different regions in the country have their own way of singing Lanke. The one in the western region is considered more popular. Meanwhile, back in Namge's field, he is determined to plow through the modern advancements in keeping alive the Lanke tradition. At the same time, as one of the last bastions of Lanke, Namge hopes that the songs he sings to his oxen would also fall on the ears of the next generation before it's too late. Fachanga Dojin Punaka, Kinzanghaden, BBS News.
Well, that's all we have for this week. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye and stay safe.